Good evening. Welcome to the Hayward City Council meeting. Today is October 15th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to call upon Councilmember Cermeño to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Present.
Councilmember Sarro.
Here.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Present. Thank you. Next is our closed session announcement. Mr. City Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Council did convene at 5:30 in closed session, discussed two matters. First matter was conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation, Shingery versus City of Hayward. Council gave direction to staff, but otherwise took no reportable action. And Council conferred with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. One case gave direction to legal counsel, but otherwise took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is we have a special presentation today. Today we are concluding Latino Heritage Month and then transitioning to Indigenous Peoples Month or Native American Heritage Month. Present this evening is Elsa Sines, who is from Chabot College. And she is from the Indigenous Peoples Education Association at Chabot College. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not say that I also see a good friend and colleague from Chabot College. Professor Veronica Martinez is here, who is also, I would assume, is from the Indigenous People Education Association at Chabot College. And also, on behalf of our library director, who is not here today and who is representing the city, of course, is our DEI officer, Josephine Ayankoya. And so welcome, Josephine. And I know you had a big part in making this happen today, so thank you very much. And let's see, what I'll do is I'll read the proclamation, and then if Ms. Sines and Professor Martinez can come up to the front, and if you can hold that up. And of course, Professor Martinez, I practiced before the meeting with the languages, so please extend a little grace if I. So thank you. This is for Indigenous Peoples Day and Native American Heritage Month. Proclamation: whereas the city of Hayward occupies the unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, who were the original inhabitants, stewards of this land, and whereas the indigenous people of what we now know as the Bay Area included a series of Ohlone tribes who spoke languages such as Awaswas, Chalon, Chicheneo, Karkin, Mutsun, Ramaitush, Rumsen, and Tamyen, and whereas in 2021, Indigenous Peoples Day was recognized as a federal holiday to acknowledge the history and contributions of Native Americans, as well as the pain and suffering caused by Native genocide, colonialization, and erasure. And whereas in 1990, Native American Heritage Month began to be celebrated annually in November to highlight the achievements, culture, and resilience of Native American people, who are the foundation of what we now know as the Americas. And whereas, despite the systemic brutalization of indigenous bodies and exploitation of Native people for centuries, Native American people have persisted and consistently advocated for representation, human rights, social justice, and racial equity. And whereas many local agencies committed to supporting the lives and livelihood of Indigenous and Native American communities in Hayward and in the greater Bay Area, including but not limited to the Muwekma Tribal Council, the Indigenous Acknowledgement Collective at California State University East Bay, the Indigenous Peoples Education Association at Chabot College, and the City of Hayward Art Committee members who supported the development of an Indigenous art piece at Heritage Plaza. And whereas the City of Hayward Public Library is recognizing Native American Heritage Month with a series of events at both branches throughout the month, including Native American literary scavenger hunts for children, indigenous focused book displays, reading lists highlighting Native American authors and culture, and more. And whereas the City of Hayward is committed to centering racial equity in our processes and projects to better serve the needs of Native American, Indigenous, and other marginalized communities. And now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of the City of Hayward, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the month of November is Indigenous Peoples' Day and Native American Month. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give everybody a big round of applause. Leave this one up here because I think there's already...
Thank you, Mark Salinas, City Council members, the City of Hayward, for this proclamation. On behalf of the Indigenous People Education Association Circle at Chabot College, this means a lot to us. It means a lot that we're taking the time in the city council, during the city council meeting, to acknowledge our Indigenous students, families, community members, the land that we currently are in today, our Muwekma Ohlone brothers and sisters that are still here today. So thank you for sharing these words, which it's important that we are honest about the history, right, of the genocide, the stolen land, as well as the work towards equity and inclusion and trying to heal our community and work with our Indigenous communities in partnership so that we can continue to thrive and not just that, but to heal. Right? It is a process. So again, thank you for the acknowledgement. Just a little bit more background in regards to who we are at Chabot College. The Indigenous People Education Association was founded in 2017 by Veronica Martinez and myself. When I first arrived to Chabot College in 2017, I noticed that I didn't see any art or visibility of Indigenous people. As a mother of a daughter, Shai, who was an enrolled member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe, it was important for me to think about the students that come here and don't see themselves, right? with staff or just, again, just not visible. And it was not okay. And Veronica and I met, and we said, let's do something. And that's when the Indigenous People Education Association started. We brought in community members, elders, organizations such as the Native American Health Center, the United Indian Nations, as well as Muwekma members, Monica Oriano and Gloria Gomez, and many other community members to join our Indigenous People Education Association. This year, we developed a circle, which includes classified professionals, faculty, and administration to institutionalize the work to serve and to support Indigenous students and staff. We found that when there's only a few people that are doing the work to support or to advocate for Indigenous students and community, it's a lot of work. It's a lot. And what we wanted to make sure is that this work does not just sit on one or two people, but this is all of our responsibilities. So again, thank you for taking the active role today to say we will all support our Indigenous students, families, and community members here in the city of Hayward. So our mission is to support students of any Indigenous heritage in achieving equal access to academic and career success and developing and maintaining a healthy college community. At Chabot College, we have over 400 students that self-identify as Native American. Over 400 students. So again, we have a large population that to support and advocate for. We started an Indigenous Peoples Student Club, which we're looking at revitalizing, who before the pandemic, we had film festivals, water ceremony, and just come together in community to support one another. In 2017, IPEA worked directly with the Muwekma tribal leaders to create land acknowledgements for short programs, ceremony, and Chabot College is very active in starting our meetings, every graduation, our board meetings with the land acknowledgement. In 2022, with the support of the Chabot College leadership and President Susan Sperling, Chabot College became the first public institution to permanently raise the Muwekma Ohlone flag. So I need to which is huge. We held a flag-raising ceremony in the presence of tribal members who were extremely grateful, college and community members as well. This was a special day and continues to be of great significance for the Muwekma people to see their flag at Chabot College campus because they continue to seek federal recognition. Yesterday, for Indigenous Peoples Day, our campus had a sunrise ceremony. We welcomed the sun in our new building, the 600 in the library, and which was an amazing time and space to be together in community with other members. And we also held a presentation on decolonizing wellness. So just stay tuned. We are organizing some events for November for Native American Heritage Month. And again, thank you for being here, and just very thankful for my colleagues here, Veronica Martinez, Maya Ito, and my daughter, Shailene Sines. And again, at Chabot College, we are committed to helping our Indigenous students navigate college, thrive, and in their educational journey. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So my name is Josephine Ayankwe. I have the pleasure of serving as the Equity and Inclusion Officer for City of Hayward. So on behalf of our staff here, just want to wish you all a very happy Native American Heritage Month, as well as Indigenous Peoples Day. Just to echo some of what our community partners have shared, it's really important for us to be mindful about centering the original peoples of this land. So this council and our leadership team know that throughout this year, we've had a series of racial equity proclamations to celebrate Cultural Heritage Months. And while the Native American community is the last in this calendar year to be acknowledged, it's definitely not the last when we think about how we center racial equity in our work. So we really are excited to be more intentional about our goals, our values, and how our processes and systems work with much of what was set in mind. So while there was, very large attempted genocide, because folks did survive, we also recognize that Native folks have always been here. They're our neighbors, they're our colleagues, they're our community leaders, and it's really important to center that understanding in our current state as we think about our internal system and our external processes. So the city is really committed to that within our racial equity work, and there definitely is a belief that equity for Native American folks is really enhancing our process improvement for everyone. If we can center those who've been the most erased from the conversation, we're gonna have a better system ultimately. So really excited to be celebrating Native American Heritage Month and to be working with the city and our partners to expand our racial equity work for Indigenous populations here. And then on behalf of our library director who cannot make it today, there will be a few events that the mayor shared throughout the month of November. So we invite you all to be a part of that and to continue to lift Native voices and experiences, not just in November, not just for Indigenous Peoples Day, but throughout the year. So thank you so much to our partners from IPEA at Chabot and to the other organizations who couldn't be here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And let's give the folks from Chabot College another big round of applause so we can. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good. We're going to move on to our next item, which is public comment. This is reserved for anybody in the audience or online that would like to make a public comment on something that is on the agenda or not on the agenda. And I have one card in front of me, and I believe it is Tom Wong.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Mark, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question about the Measure K. I wasn't too sure what was up with that. We're extending the half-cent tax till 2055. I mean, it's 10 more years before it expires. I was just wondering what's the urgency in extending something all the way up to 2055? Because as I recall it in Measure C, when this first started, that this was supposed to help fund certain programs and building maintenance and all that, and end up borrowing money, $90 million from Measure C to build a library. And a financial analyst actually estimated that the interest that was borrowed was close to $30 million from Measure C. So is there a plan to borrow money on Measure K? Is that why you're pushing forward to have this renewal so quickly instead of more closer to expiration date? So I was just curious. I just want to see if there's some type of answer, because there's very nebulous out there. They're just promoting Measure K as something that's good for the community, but there was not a whole lot of detail behind what was benefiting the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to, and I don't see any public comment online. Council members or menu.
Yes, just to acknowledge that we have a couple of students. I believe they're from Hayward High School. There's one over there, and I think there's one over there too, Hayward High. It's excellent. They're government class.
Oh, well,
Welcome.
before I close public comment, go Farmers. I mean, I'm just saying, right? Right? Great. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to close public comment, and I'll move on to our city manager's report, and interim city manager Clausen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excited for a couple of announcements here. We are down to the last 2 days of the very popular Halloween costume giveaway at the Weeks Branch Library. This Friday, October 18th, from 11 to noon, and next week on Tuesday, October 22nd, from 5:30 to 6:30. We'll be giving out gently used Halloween costumes and accessories for babies, toddlers, children, and teens while supplies last. No donations are being accepted at this time. We are only doing giveaways, and that will be, again, at the Weeks Branch Public Library, located at 27300 Patrick Avenue off of Tennyson. So very excited for that. Also, more exciting news, the city's pavement condition index has improved to 76, which is rather large. Thank you. I did nothing for that, but thank you. Really want to give a big shout out to our Public Works Department and all the work that they are doing around the city. This is a huge achievement as we see continuous deterioration of the roads in the Bay Area. For us to have improved up to 76 when we've hovered around 70 for the last several years is a testament to. And I know that some folks are very tired of all the construction around, but obviously we're seeing the marked improvement that we hoped, and really excited to continue that work and hope to see our PCI continue to improve. So that's all I've got this evening. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. Everybody likes to have a smooth road, right? Great. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to go back to public comment. There is an item that I missed. Right now, we are in the middle of election season, and city clerks all across the state and across the country right now are putting together and organizing the best election processes as possible. Of course, Miriam Lenz, our city clerk, has her team and her office has put together a video that we are going to watch. And I believe I'm just waiting for it to be queued up. Oh, it's queued up. Okay. So we have a brief video with sort of an election, Alameda County, Hayward elections 101. And so, and I believe this is going to be 45 minutes? No, I'm kidding. It's going to be 3 minutes or something like that. 4 minutes. 4 minutes long. Okay. Roll the clip, Geraldine.
Can you register to vote? To register to vote in California, you must be a U.S. citizen, resident of California, 18 years of age or older on Election Day, not currently serving a state or federal prison term for the conviction of a felony, and not currently found mentally incompetent to vote by a court of law. The last day to register to vote is Monday, October 21st, 2024. You can register online at the California Secretary of State website, or pick up a voter registration form at the Hayward City Clerk's office or the Hayward Main Library. If you miss the October 21st deadline, you can register conditionally within 14 days for the election at the Alameda County Registrar of Voters or at any vote center. Are you registered to vote? Check your voter registration status at the official election site of Alameda County. Remember to re-register if you change your name, change your address, or change your political party choice. What's on my ballot? A state voter information guide is mailed to every voter household a few weeks before Election Day. It has details about statewide ballot measures and some candidates. County voter information guides are mailed to each registered voter. It shows you what your ballot will look like and includes information about local candidates and local ballot measures. County voter information guides will be mailed beginning Thursday, September 26th, 2024. When will I receive my ballot? Ballots will be mailed beginning Monday, October 7th, 2024. Every active registered voter in California will receive a vote-by-mail ballot for the November 5th election. Ways to vote. By USPS mail. Your voted ballot must be postmarked on or before Election Day to be counted. In person, bring your voted vote-by-mail ballot to the Alameda County Registrar of Voters or to a local vote center before 8 p.m. on Election Day. By drop box, Drop off your completed vote-by-mail ballot at one of 7 secure official 24-hour drop-box locations in Hayward before 8 p.m. on Election Day. Locations include Hayward City Hall, Cal State University East Bay, Chabot College, Hayward Hall of Justice, Cherryland Park, San Felipe Community Park, and Weeks Community Center. How will I know if my ballot was counted? You can sign up at whereismyballot.sos.ca.gov and receive notifications by email, text, or voice message regarding the status of your vote-by-mail ballot. Can I vote in person? Yes. Even though you will receive a vote-by-mail ballot, you can still choose to vote in person at a vote center. Vote centers in Hayward. 2 11-day vote centers will be open beginning October 26th through November 4th, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Election Day, November 5th, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 8 4-day vote centers will be open beginning November 2nd through November 4th, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Election Day, November 5th, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can vote in person at one of the 10 vote centers in Hayward, or at any vote center in Alameda County. Vote centers in Hayward include the Chabot College Student Center, Hayward Adult School, Fairway Park Baptist Church, Cal State University East Bay, Palma Sia Baptist Church, Weeks Community Center Park, Downtown Hayward Public Library, Fairview Elementary School, St. Clement's Church, and the Alameda County Office Building. Vote centers offer other services besides in-person voting. You can also change your name, address, or political party on your voter profile, receive a replacement vote-by-mail envelope, and receive language assistance or assistance completing your ballot. Don't forget to vote this November 5th, 2024. Your vote is important.
Gotta love Whitney Houston, let me tell you. I am not going to ask who was the singing credits on that video, but I'll leave it at that. Well, thank you very much. Anything else? Oh.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, I know that was more than 4 minutes, but also wanted to acknowledge Bolthar Garcia from the Communications Division, who helped us put this video together. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And you know, a lot of folks don't know this or may not know this, but Miriam, our city clerk, Miriam Linz, and your team have, for many years, have run some incredible elections. You have always made sure that the process has been smooth and easy for candidates, and even pre-election, election day, and post-election, your office has always done a great job, a fantastic job at organizing elections. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate
And just one more item. So on Election Day, my office will be open all day. So we welcome phone calls, any inquiries. We are here to help the register of voters on Election Day.
Great.
Thank you.
And I should also say that when I was watching the video, just so that you know I was paying attention, there's 6 ballot boxes in the city of Hayward, 1 in Cherryland, but I counted at least 6 here in the city. So you have both in South Hayward, North Hayward, West Hayward, and up in the Hayward Hills. So, and I would assume that if you're dropping your ballot off at Cal State East Bay, you know, I'm sure if you parked your car close by the student union, you can just run up, drop your ballot, and then run back to your car, hopefully without getting a ticket, but nonetheless. Well, great. Thank you for that very much. And also, just just a quick comment about the city manager's report. You know, the road rating really is an extraordinary rating, and you know, I'd be remiss to say, got to thank Measure C for that. If we did not have Measure C, we would not have had the road rating that we have today, and so and firehouses, and anyways, I don't want to get into all that, but anyways. So thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our consent calendar. I didn't see anybody who wanted. Oh, Okay, I didn't see anybody who wanted to pull any, oh, did you want to, comment? Okay. So before I ask for comments, what I'd like to do first is see if there's any motion. Moved by Councilmember Cermeño.
second.
Seconded by Councilmember Syrup. And then I'll first defer to Councilmember Syrup for a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to thank Commissioner Thompson for her service on the Personnel Commission. I'm quite sad to see her stepping down. I think we made some great strides over the past years in reforming the commission, and I think as it continues to serve residents, it will be largely in part to the comments that she made while she was there. So thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for your service on that commission.
Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge, let's see, it was 2 items, 9 and 11, regarding the animal shelter. There are 2 great grants that are coming in for the animal shelter, one for $500,000 from the Keith Lacey Trust and another from $100,000 from the Davis Court Shelter Medicine Program. I just think this is great news for the shelter. They're always strapped for cash, and I just wanted to acknowledge these grants that are coming in. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not sure, I know we have a motioner and a seconder, but I also noticed a public comment. So let me, I'll call on, before we vote, let me go back for public comment and ask TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens to go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, I'll make it short. I was just reiterating the comments made by Councilmember Roche about number 9 and number 11. Go Animal Services. I know many of my colleagues were very, very happy to see the love that they are getting. And we wanted to make a plug for, it was mentioned earlier, Measure K1, so that we can get that public safety building going and hopefully get a larger space for the Animal Services. So thank you very much for acknowledging them.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to close public comment and then move on to the vote. Moved by Councilmember Cermeño, seconded by Councilmember Syrup. Madam.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's one more person, Alejandro. No, if I don't know.
Oh,
do you see him?
Okay, yeah. Alejandro Hasso.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if the comments were gonna go after the consent item, but yeah, I just wanted to speak. Well, first of all, thank you for the work on the new protected bike lanes on West Tennyson and also Panama Street. We're organizing a bike ride to celebrate those new bike lanes on October 27th. And so yeah, thank you for all the work with that. And also, I wanted to speak in support of the consent item 15. Because that would help, make our Hayward Loop safer and also continue this amazing work that the city staff has been doing on building more protected bike lanes and making our city more walkable and bikeable. So yeah, thank you for all the work. And yeah, if you'd like to join us on our bike ride on the 27th, we're starting from the South Hayward Market. So that'll be fun. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Seeing no more online and seeing no one here, moved by Councilmember Cermeño, seconded by Councilmember Syrup. Madam City Clerk, you can go ahead and do the vote.
So if there are no objections?
Yeah, there are no objections, so they'll be unanimously passed. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is item number 17. It's a work session item. It's the Housing Element Implementation Work Session on Proposed Zoning Text Amendment on Chapter 10, Planning, Zoning, and Subdivisions of the Hayward Municipal Code related to supportive housing programs associated with implementation of the Hayward 2023-2031 housing element. And I believe our Development Services Director, Sarah Bowser, will kick this off, but I don't see Sarah Bowser sitting at the dais, and I see Taylor.
Yeah. Good evening, City Council and Hayward community. I am Taylor Richard, an Associate Planner with the City of Hayward Planning Division. Tonight, I will be presenting draft zoning amendments to implement actions within Hayward's 2023-2031 housing element related to the development of supportive housing. Before I cover the draft amendments, I briefly want to share some background information on the project. One of the main catalysts for this project is that California is currently in a housing and shelter crisis. In the past decade, the City Council has taken several actions to help address this crisis, including the adoption of the Hayward housing element, which is composed of goals, policies, programs, and actions to help meet our community's housing need. This project aims to fulfill several actions in the housing element that are shown in the screen and outlined in the staff report. The City of Hayward is required to fulfill these actions in order to stay in compliance with state law and ensure our housing element stays certified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD. Currently, HCD is reviewing our draft regulations for compliance. These regulations have also been shared with the public and stakeholders and are under public review until October 21st. To date, we have received general support from our stakeholders. However, some service providers have expressed frustration with items outside of the city's control, such as insurance rates and rising development costs for supportive housing. With that, I'll get into the draft regulations, starting with SROs. We are proposing allowing SROs and hotel conversions into SROs in certain commercial, mixed-use, and high-density residential zoning districts with the approval of an administrative use permit. During our work sessions in June, a public commenter suggested allowing SROs where we allow hotels due to their similarities and to allow for conversions. For this reason, all of the districts selected currently permit hotels with the exception of the high-density residential zoning district. However, one planning commissioner at our work session last week was strongly opposed to allowing hotel conversions. As you can see on the map, the proposed use would be administratively permitted on approximately 2,000 parcels along Mission Boulevard in downtown and a few other neighborhoods. These would be subject to draft development standards, which were modeled off of regulations from San Leandro, Milpitas, and Winters. Each sleeping unit would have to be a maximum of 400 square feet, have a minimum of 90 cubic feet of storage, and have one parking space. Within the development, there would have to be shared laundry and open space facilities. However, bathroom and cooking facilities could either be shared or private. Lastly, we recommend requiring a management plan that addresses the management of the facility, staffing, rental procedures, safety and security, and building maintenance. Moving on to safe parking, staff proposes allowing this use on properties owned by a tax-exempt nonprofit organization that are a minimum of 20,000 square feet and have a minimum of 50 parking spaces or a habitable structure with at least 10,000 square feet with the approval of an administrative use permit. These parameters were chosen to ensure the use occurs on large developed sites that can easily accommodate the use. As shown on this map, this use would be administratively permitted on 32 parcels, which are scattered throughout Hayward. As drafted, safe parking would have to comply with certain development and performance standards, which were modeled after Union City and Fremont's safe parking programs. All vehicles would have to be operable and parked within striped parking spaces. Permanent bathroom facilities would be required and accessible to all Safe Park residents, and bathing and laundry facilities shall be provided to the Safe Parking residents on a weekly basis. These facilities can be permanent or temporary, and the Safe Parking can only operate between the hours of 5 p.m. and 10 a.m. Lastly, a management plan would be required that addresses the operation, management, rules, and safety. We received 2 comments from the Planning Commission last week on this item. One commissioner felt that safe parking should require a planning commission or city council approval, and another commissioner requested that we explore allowing trailer restroom facilities instead of a permanent one. Moving on to group homes, the group home use was added to 5 additional mixed-use zoning districts as required by the California Welfare and Institutions Code. There are 2 types of group homes, licensed and unlicensed. Licensed group homes require a thorough permitting process with the California Department of Social Services. For this reason, we decided to distinguish between unlicensed and licensed group homes within our regulations. Please note, based on the feedback received, we are not proposing changes to the permitting process for unlicensed group homes. However, we are proposing changes to the permitting process for licensed group homes to allow 8 by right, between 9 and 14 with an administrative use permit, and 15 or more with a conditional use permit. Moving on to emergency shelters, the proposed amendments recommended allowing emergency shelters in additional commercial and Mission Boulevard zoning districts, but only along Mission Boulevard and Foothill Boulevard. And this would allow shelters on a total of 435 parcels. All the shelters would be subject to the following development standards, which are modeled after Oakland, Fremont, and San Leandro. The shelter could have a maximum of 45 beds. The shelter would be required to have 1 parking space for every 3 employees during peak staffing, and an additional space for every facility vehicle. The shelter would be required to have 24/7 on-site management and security and an enclosed or screened intake area. Lastly, the shelter would need to be located at least 300 feet from another shelter. Please note this is the maximum distance allowed under state law. Moving on to our last category, psychiatric and rehabilitation care facilities. Psychiatric and rehabilitation care facilities are 24-hour facilities which provide intensive support and rehabilitation services designed to assist people with mental disorders who would have been placed in a state hospital or another mental facility to develop skills to become self-sufficient and capable of increasing levels of independence and functioning. The draft development standards are based on the best practices and an influx of funding from the state and the county for these types of facilities. We are proposing allowing these facilities in some industrial and Mission Boulevard zoning districts with the approval of an administrative use permit as shown on the map. All of these facilities would be required to be licensed and regulated by the state of California, or State Department of Healthcare Services. With that, I conclude my presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm also joined by the Community Services Manager, Amy Cole, and Development Services Deputy Director, Christina Morales. Tonight, I would appreciate your feedback on the following questions. Does City Council support the draft zoning amendments? Are there any other standards that should be included or excluded for the uses discussed tonight? And are there any additional zoning districts where we should allow the uses discussed tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. It is a work session, so I want to open up for public comment first. I don't have any cards here in the room, so oops, hold on a second. Oops. Okay, hold on. I do see two hands online. First caller is TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens.
Hi, I'm TJ with Hayward Concerned Citizens. I'm speaking on behalf of myself on this item tonight. I really didn't realize all of the nuances within the city's housing element until I took the time to watch the last City Planning Commission meeting on October 10th. The presentation summarized this pretty much, but I would highly encourage the public and council members to review the YouTube recording of this meeting because it really exemplifies how a cohesive, practical, passionate, and proactive governing body can truly advocate for balance between state housing law regulations, Hayward's desire to adequately address the needs of the unhoused and vulnerable communities to achieve positive outcomes on a local level, and ensuring that residents in established neighborhoods are active stakeholders who have their needs and concerns heard. I'm glad that you got the key points from last week's meeting, but I wanted to quickly share my takeaways from that meeting. I understand you can't make stakeholders come to the table, but I would like to know why the 5 stakeholder meetings in May were only internal and not made public. Secondly, by right allowances were mentioned, which in some cases waive zoning requirements to remove barriers to housing where multifamily and mixed uses are permitted. It does change the character of the neighborhood. The community at large may be consulted and listened to, but their ideas and requests not necessarily embraced because the state has its city's hands tied. All of the commissioners felt there needed to be more time for the public to weigh in and to digest the proposed amendment for each standalone housing option, but we're told there's no time, that the state has a statutory deadline of January 31st, and these regulations need to be adopted. Very disheartening. Our local system of checks and balances is being taken away. The city proposes to take revenue producing assets such as motels and convert them into SROs, which won't generate income and potentially could cost the city money. And last, the proposal of safe parking sites does not sound like it's including on-site portable bathroom facilities due to the city's concern about getting fined and losing funding over the potential of things going down sewer systems that shouldn't. So what is the better solution? I know they mentioned that churches would be relied on for bathrooms. So I hope in the midst of this housing discussion that in its haste to meet state demands, Hayward will continue to keep the well-being of both its vulnerable and its established residents at the forefront of its decisions. And I just wanted to add that on page 4 of the staff report, you're missing reference number 16, which looks like an important omission. So just wanted to make a point of that. Thanks for hearing my comment.
Thank you. Next is, there's no name, it just says Zoom user.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Luther with Hayward Concerned Citizens, and I'm not sure if I understood all of this right. And this is a work session. Is there any way you can answer my question instead of just listen to my comment and let it go?
If this is public comment, all we can do is listen and not comment. But when we reconvene, you can email us. We can reply and get clarity there. This is a work session, so there will be at least one or two other more opportunities to ask questions and have them answered. But you can always email staff. You can email Taylor Richard.
Okay, thank you. Are these facilities going to be built and funded by the city? That's my question. Or are you trying to attract builders to come in and build these and create these facilities? And if it is a city project, where's the money going to come from? That's my question. And I feel like this is a state mandate that I don't think they have a right to mandate such a thing. And I think that before the city council or the city does anything, that you should speak with the city attorney and see if there's something that we can do to keep from having to do all of this stuff, because the more high density and low income housing, the worse this city is going to be. And I think you have an obligation to the citizens and residents of this city and the taxpayers of this city. So I hope that you seek another option. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller is Alejandro Hasso.
Hi. Thank you. I think it's just one of the things that stood out to me was the requirement on single room occupancy and like the requirement for like a minimum of one parking space. And I think it would be important to remove that requirement if this is close to a transit station or a BART station, because that would make it cheaper to build this type of facilities. And also, the city is doing a good job at making our bike lanes better. So it would be important to also include bike parking as a requirement, which will allow people like low-income people to afford these facilities and also make it cheaper to build. And also, like I disagree with the last comment. Higher density actually makes our city more efficient because it reduces the cost of like water, sewage, and the cost of building all the utilities for electricity, also roads. It makes it it makes our city more sustainable. So I think it's important to make increase the density of Hayward, but in a sustainable way, and focusing on active transportation, because that would allow our city to grow in a sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is Peggy Guernsey. We can't hear you if you're talking. I'll give you 3 more seconds. Okay. She'll probably call back. Okay. Since we can't hear you, I will close public comment and then move on. I'll move back up here to the dais and Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this presentation. I'm supportive of your recommendations overall. I know a lot of thought has gone into them. This isn't the first time that this has been brought before us, and I appreciate the adjustments that you're making as you get feedback. When we say we're in a homelessness and housing crisis, this is the kind of action that's required to get folks off the street. And we hear from residents, from our satisfaction survey to our friends at the Chamber of Commerce and from the state, that homelessness is a top issue. And we know that there's a relationship between homelessness and crime, so this is also a public safety issue. And I just want to share that as a city, we hire top-notch staff to research and pursue solutions that will make a dent in this problem. So I trust the plan that they've been cultivating and putting forward and refining for the last few months. I do have a few questions. I am curious, why only high density for the SRO residential, and if we're able to expand that to potentially medium density or low density, just to encourage development across the board, because we need these units online. And as we know, in the current market, it's almost impossible to build high density at the moment, given the cost of labor and construction.
So SROs have some abilities that make the development cheaper to begin with, as just a thing. Allowing the sharing of facilities will bring down the building costs. Why we specifically just chose the high density residential, in terms of like form and how they function more similarly to like a high density apartment building. And so we didn't feel that it was appropriate exploring them in the RM or the low density residential. Also because we wanted that hotel conversion, we really looked at places that like had hotels and already had the built infrastructure, so we could reuse buildings efficiently. But if that's what the council would like us to explore further, including it in those districts, we're happy to do so.
Thank you. I am interested in understanding, what other districts might be available for this kind of development for all the various categories you mentioned. I'm seeing a lot of emphasis on Mission. I think as Mission continues to develop, it might become more expensive real estate, which is why I'm interested in understanding Jackson, Harder, Tennyson, Industrial, if there are other sites along those roads that might be open to development. What are your thoughts on that?
I will share that through our public outreach process, a lot of these are designed to serve the unhoused, and so they need to be close to like high density and residential and services, which is why Mission Boulevard and downtown were common areas where to do it, because they are close to services, they are close to transit, and other services that the unhoused population needs. So that is why we predominantly chose those. The other major thoroughfares in the city just don't have the level of transit to get people around.
Thank you for that clarity. I mentioned that because, and I understand your reasoning, I know that we look at SROs as purely a solution for the folks that are unhoused, but when we talk about wanting workforce housing, for example, SROs are examples of affordable units for individuals to be able to rent that could prevent further displacement within our city. And so, I would actually strongly disagree with one of the statements made during public comment that low-income units would make our community worse. I find that a little offensive, to be honest, because in the Bay Area, where you have an average median income of over $100,000, that means our hairdressers, our restaurant workers, our teachers, our school staff, practically anyone that's not working in tech or an executive job would be considered low income. And I don't think our community is worse for trying to find units for those folks to live in. And so I guess, that's more of a comment, but the question I'd couch in that is, are there any plans or attempts to develop SROs, not necessarily for folks that are unhoused?
Yeah, the regulations are designed to be like flexible for a lot of populations. In terms of like some of the other populations you talked about, we allow group homes in basically every residential district, and a lot of like workforce housing or student housing or things like that can be accommodated by the group homes, and they're at a much smaller scale. That's why the SROs are meant to be a lot bigger, have a lot more people, and serve that, which is why we predominantly put them in those neighborhoods we suggested. So we are thinking about it. The regulations were built to accommodate a larger amount of populations, not just the unhoused.
Great, thank you for clarifying that, because I think it's important for folks to realize these are affordable units for everybody, not just the unhoused. And there was a comment that was made around requirements or removing a requirement for buildings near transit facilities or including bike infrastructure. Could you speak to that, or maybe how we might be able to incorporate something like that?
Yeah, there's already a state law. It's AB 2097, which means the city cannot require parking for any type of development within a half mile of a major transit stop, which is currently defined as our BART stations, Amtrak, and then bus stops that have 10-minute headways. So if an SRO was located in one of those locations and they requested to not have any parking, we would allow it under that state law. specifically are related to the bike parking. Our Cal Green code, so the building code, dictates a certain level of bike parking infrastructure, like short-term and long-term, so that would be included as part of the building permit review.
Great. And did you say that was, and for those criteria or for those criteria? Because a 10-minute headway is hard to come by with the current funding situation in our transit agencies.
It's or. It's one of, you have to be in one of the following. You have to be in a half mile of Amtrak, half mile of BART, or a half mile of a bus station with 10-minute headways.
Great, thank you. And then I do want to address one more question that was asked during public comment. As far as, who is paying for this, we're just setting up the zoning, right? This is for other developers to be able to come in and develop.
Correct. These are regulations that would allow developers or service providers or property owners to explore building these. They would not be the city building these.
Great, thank you. I think those are all my questions. Again, I'm supportive of your recommendations. And, if we do have, I think the last thing I'll end on here is if we do have hotels, that are sitting vacant and could be better used as SROs, I'm in support of that. We also use our tax dollars responding to emergency situations. And so, it's the other side of the coin. Yes, we could generate revenue from a hotel, but we also lose revenue when we don't have folks with adequate shelter. And I see there being immense savings for the city and our taxpayers by getting folks off the street. So I am supportive of this direction. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to follow up with what Councilmember Syrup said, I just wanted to be clear again to the public that we are simply changing, considering zoning changes. The city is not proposing to build any of what we're talking about here. Because I think at one point you talked about potentially 400 spaces. That could be, I think those are emergency shelters, and that's just zoning for potential emergency shelters. They would still have to go through all of the permitting process in order to have these shelters. So no, there are no proposed city dollars being proposed to be spent on any of this. I just wanted to be clear about that. And thank you for the report. I just wanted to say, we've all seen new faces on the streets, and we're all sort of in, need of having to do something about it. And I think we can't do nothing. And I think one way we can try to satisfy this is come up with more opportunities to build shelters, to find SROs, to allow for group housing. Because otherwise, it is a public safety issue. We will continue to get complaints from the community because it isn't fun to see some of our streets taken over by encampments. And the only way to resolve this is to find home. They have to have somewhere to go. And I think this zoning will allow that to happen, even if it is uncomfortable in some spaces. And to that end, with the SROs, I'm not in, I'd like to keep it in the high density areas specifically because of what you said. There is an opportunity for group homes in some of the less dense areas of the city. So I would like to keep the SRO zoning just in the high density area. And then as far as the safe parking goes, I've visited a couple of safe parking sites, both in Fremont and in Castro Valley, and they're really not as sort of scary, I guess, as you would think. I mean, they're managed well. These are great, safe spots for people who are living in their cars to spend the night, know where they're going to be each night. And when the Fremont one is managed really well, and it's a cycle. They go through the different churches and nonprofits. And provided a safe place to sleep. Many of these people are working people that they just live in their cars, and so to find a safe place for them in Hayward to sleep, I think, is definitely worthwhile for us to pursue. So I'm definitely in favor of that with the standards that you've set forth here. And I did want to ask in all of these, if there was a problem, they're administrative use permits, but how? What is the sort of reviewing of those if things are not going right?
Yeah, so with the exception of licensed group homes, none of the things we're proposing tonight, and shelters, but that's required under state law, but none of the other uses we're proposing would be by right. So I heard that comment in the public comments. None of those would be by right. These would all require administrative use permits, which are revocable. So if nuisances arrived or if they are not following their conditions of approval, we can revoke the use permit, and then they would no longer be able to operate.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And then the group homes, I guess I was a little concerned about right now it's up by right up to 8 residents, but with the permit they could go to 9 to 14. Is that going to depend on the size of the home?
They'll still have to meet building code and fire regulations. That would still be part of the review. So.
And if somebody were to open a new group home, will there be an opportunity for the neighboring, for the community around that home to have a say before that permit is issued.
So for medium and large, licensed and unlicensed things, yes, because every time we get a permit, we notify when we receive the application and when we make a decision on the application. So the community would be given 2 chances to look at it, and if they were unhappy with the decision that the city makes, they could appeal it to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe that's important for the public to hear, that there is something, you can watch this and you can see what's happening in your community. And it will take, sort of paying attention when you get those postcards in the mail that there might be a new development coming your way. So I think it will be important to watch that if you're interested in how those group homes come into your neighborhood. Let's see, I think I just want to make sure. Got any other comments? I did watch the Planning Commission meeting that was mentioned, and it was really interesting to get the Planning Commission comments. I think there was some really good points that were made there, just making sure that, if a new group home goes in a neighborhood, that even if neighbors don't come out or stakeholders aren't vocal, what can we do as a city to make sure, because you know how it happens so often that we decide on something and then people come in and say, what, I didn't know about this, even though it was all sent. So what can we do in those situations to be even more proactive so we don't get that after the fact?
I would say, the planning department is always available. We're working on some new tools to post our what development is occurring on maps, so people can engage more with what projects they are, not just the ones in their immediate neighborhood. If you are interested in it, I would recommend emailing the planning division. We have lots of listservs you can be added to receive every single notice if you are really engaged. So there are lots of ways to be knowledgeable about what's occurring in your neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for answering my questions. That's all, Mayor.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Tyler, for an excellent presentation. I like all of your recommendations. I like this a lot because we have, 171,000 homeless folks in the state of California. Your 3 points on page 210 are excellent. I support the zoning amendments. Other standards, they're going to be issued here. South Hayward Parish had a safe parking when Betty DeForest was around, and she allowed people to stay overnight there. But it had to stop because the folks would not follow the rules. They would do crazy things, and that's when the neighbors stood up. Anyway, so just a couple of comments and a couple of questions. We approved tiny homes, but we don't have any tiny homes yet, right? None yet. Okay, so, all right. Sadly. We do have the crisis. Okay, hotels. Have we asked any other municipalities their experience with this particular problem or this particular process or issue?
Speaking specifically of converting hotels into supportive housing, is that what you're speaking?
Right, the SRO. So taking a hotel and making them available for SROs. There was a question in the Planning Commission, where we would lose income. But what has been the experience of San Leandro, Union City, et cetera, Fremont?
I can't speak specifically to the other cities, and I will invite our community services manager, Amy Cole, because she, I think, has more background on this issue to speak. But from what I've heard anecdotally is there are lots of hotels that are struggling in Hayward and are looking for opportunities to use the site. So it's not like there's no demand for kind of this use. So I'll let Amy add additional information.
Thank you, Taylor. I have really nothing additional to add beyond the anecdote that Taylor mentioned. There are motels that are interested in operating. I would say that it is, at this point, it's been difficult to identify funding sources for long-term operating costs associated with something like an SRO.
Okay. We don't foresee a number of hotels, 1, 2, 3, 4 hotels. Do we have an idea at the moment?
I don't have an idea of how many would
Okay.
want to convert, so that is not something we can do. We can look back. I took down the Planning Commission's information about their concern, and we'll look into it.
All right. But this would allow for that opportunity to happen. Okay.
Yeah, but currently our regulations would allow for the hotels to convert to any of the allowable
Okay.
uses. It's not like we can force something
right.
to stay the use it is.
Yes. Safe parking would allow trailers, big campers, or just individual cars?
Would allow trailers, RVs, and any other things that are defined as a vehicle in our code. We won't allow RV hookups or any like drainage or anything like that, but
Okay.
if you just live in an RV, you could park it there.
All right, okay. I'm just thinking they need to fit in within the parking stall, but if you have a camper, it's bigger than one parking stall, so that can be accommodated.
Yes, they'll just need to be reviewed. All of them will be reviewed by our fire department to ensure that they are not blocking any circulation.
Okay, all right. So what is, I want us to start thinking a little bit about the homeless, the unhoused, who are causing problems because they don't want to be in a room. They don't want to be in a house. Specifically, there are a couple of folks in downtown that just continue causing problems for our businesses. We're going to lose Kraski's because there was an individual who just kept tearing down the windows. There's an individual with long, uncombed hair that keeps walking around. He's not interested in anything like this. When can we start thinking about those folks who don't want a living situation? When can we start thinking about that, and what are some ideas?
I may have Amy comment on this,
Yeah.
but I will provide an initial thing is we really worked with our service providers, and a lot of the reason why individuals don't want to go into facilities is because it's congregate living, which is why we're recommending like SROs and something where someone can have their own private space where they can live, they can have their own stuff, they can lock a door behind them and feel safe and secure. So that is why these draft regulations came to be. We're really thinking about those individuals who don't want to go into a congregate care. Amy can speak more though to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Taylor. We hear that from our service providers quite often, particularly post-COVID, where we, as a county and a state, very rapidly housed individuals in non-congregate setting. Folks have come to understand that it's an option for them for the reasons that Taylor said. It's preferable. I would also add that we are having some internal staff discussions around the few individuals who are, I think people have said, service resistant, remembering that service engagement takes a lot of work. We have street outreach providers, we have the LINK team who are mental health care providers on a mobile basis. And in their experience and their expertise, it takes multiple encounters with individuals to engage them just in a conversation, let alone to get them to come inside into a living environment that may not be suitable for them or of interest to them. And so I'll leave it there. We will be coming back to council later this year with a more in-depth conversation about homelessness in particular. I think that the item Taylor's bringing before you tonight is really focused on zoning to make services available, and conversations about engaging folks who are unhoused can also be part of that later conversation in December.
Okay, so maybe keep doing discussions with BAC's people and find out what we can do. I am positive that the gentleman on Jackson, who keeps moving with all of his equipment from Jackson up and down the street, is not interested in living anywhere.
Yeah, if you have particular individuals whom you're concerned about, you're welcome to fill out an Access Hayward request. And this goes to everybody who's listening. And our staff can follow up with them.
Okay. And then the gentleman who had a credit card living at Tennyson and 880, he wasn't interested in going anywhere. He said, hey, just leave me alone. I'm happy here. So we need to reach out to those folks. So again, thank you. I support all the recommendations. I only wish that the other 101 cities of the Bay Area did what we are doing, and then we could really solve this problem. So thanks again. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. And I just want to say, Associate Planner Richard, you're a trooper because this is a lot of questions tonight. So just want to acknowledge that. I did watch the Planning Commission meeting. I encourage all of our council to watch it as well as staff, and wanted to know a little bit more about the TOT and how we would recover funds if we were to allow uses to switch from being hotels to SRO.
So on our work plan is a update to some of our commercial districts. We've done our residential districts. We're looking at commercial districts. We're partnering with our economic development team. And so that's on the work plan in the next year. And so we're really looking at ways to support businesses in that way.
Okay, and just acknowledge that we do have a new hotel on Hesperian and one is being built on Mission. So there's more hotels coming. This is more for the motels that are struggling, who are interested. And with that, I just want to confirm, would SROs be a mixed use with continuing a hotel use, or would it transform the whole motel to be an SRO use?
I think the way the regulations are crafted, you could do a partial conversion into an SRO. It wouldn't require you to fully change the whole use.
Okay, so we can still obtain the TOT, and then just those units would be impacted by SRO. So it wouldn't be the whole use
Correct.
change.
Yeah,
So I
it
just
could
wanna
it could
confirm
be that way. And I will say it's more targeted at like the really old hotels that are run down and don't
Right.
have money to do facility upgrades or renovate the room or compete with the new hotels that are coming online.
So this could be a way to infuse because they are struggling, and we don't necessarily want a closed hotel building that will sit for decades, possibly, if they were to close.
Yeah, and I mean, the nuisances with vacant buildings are very extreme. It requires a lot of engagement from our code enforcement team. We would rather have a user in the building.
And during COVID, we did have some motels that took advantage of the room key. Was that a mixed use as well during room key? It wasn't just they took over all of the motel to do room key. It was hotel rooms that were used for room key.
Amy might be able to speak more. I don't know the specifics of that program.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually don't know if the room key hotels, if the entire hotel was used for room key or if it was just a portion. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I want to say it wasn't because I remember, I know one person that took advantage of that program. He said that was the only way he stayed off the street was because of that program during COVID. So just wanted to acknowledge that. But either way, the funds have not been identified to make this happen in a way that it would be managed by the city, right?
Yeah, these are just zoning regulations, so a private developer, nonprofit, or someone would have to secure the funding and go through the administrative use process in order to do so. It would not be city initiated or city led.
Okay, and then I agree with Councilmember Roach in terms of the administrative use permit may not be tracking, the public may not be tracking postcards of what's going on in the community. So I do think there needs to be a little bit more robust engagement if something like this was to happen. I'm not sure what that would look like, but similar to maybe the information that was coming out about districting, maybe this is something that in the next few sessions that we discuss this, maybe a little bit more targeted approach of making sure the community is informed about the changes happening. But I do appreciate you all doing the postcards on those permits. Wanted to also know, I did listen to Commissioner Meyer's comments in particular, given that he is a commissioner that's impacted by a location, and just wanted to see if there's been more engagement with him, but also some of the comments he made. Just wanted to let the public know some of the comments that he made were pretty, I would say, a little bit concerning, given that there is a location he lives by and he's having some issues in his community, and just wanted to see how the staff is responding to those issues.
I can provide an update at the next meeting about what the issues are occurring at the Depot Road project and provide an update. I don't know enough.
Okay. Just Yes, he had some really interesting comments regarding the Depot Road project. And who is managing that location?
Abode services.
Okay, so just want to make sure that staff is engaging with Abode and have them watch the meeting. And one of the comments that was made by staff when a commissioner asked if this topic is important to them, why are they not at the planning commission? And the comment from staff was, most likely they'll be at city council. Are they here tonight? Are they online?
I don't see the service providers that said they would be here. So I will say service providers obviously have a really hard job and they work really long hours, so they're not always available to attend meetings.
Okay, I would say we should compel them to come to the next work session or discussion on this and make adjustments to their work schedule, because now we're having some issues with some of their locations. So, we did a Foothill action plan. Now it's turned into the downtown area action plan. Wanted to also, if the next time we discuss this, if we can have an update on that action plan, because I'm concerned that we're changing zoning and we're having issues, particularly downtown, particularly on Mission, and we may not be completely ready for the zone change. So I just want to make sure that we are acknowledging the efforts that staff is making and let the community know that they are working on a lot of the issues that we have been hearing about in these communities before we do the zoning change. And then also wanted to see with the zone change, a lot of the locations would also be part of partnerships with the county. So just wanted to hear what their level of engagement is with this zone change.
So we did have invited some of the county services to all of our work sessions. They haven't engaged formally yet. Amy, though, probably has more engagement with the county, and it can speak to what their wants are and maybe share a bit.
Yeah, I think the primary example of this is as part of the county's adoption of declaration of state of emergency related to homelessness, is they formed a working group on land use. And so I've actually been out on leave, so I haven't been able to attend one of those meetings, but Hayward staff have been participating. I think they've only had one, but it's to have these types of conversations around in conjunction with the zoning reform that local jurisdictions may be doing as part of their housing elements. What are ways that we can work with the county to leverage those changes and identify places to do this work?
Okay, that's another concern I have, is the lack of engagement with the county and previous issues with county-ran facilities. This is going to be something that I want to see in the next coming meetings about what is our engagement, what is their process of management if it's going to be a county-ran facility, and then how often are they managing or doing inspections, whatever they need to do to make sure these facilities are ran properly, because the track record is not great right now for me. So I just want to make sure that we have all those answers before we change the zoning as well. And then also, if they can have a point person that we all know the names to on how to address issues, would be very important for me if we were to change zoning. And let's see, I'm just thinking any other questions. The safe parking, I definitely want to make sure the community is notified regarding safe parking, because this is going to be a more intensive use in communities that are not just in TOD areas. So I just want to make sure that we are doing some education for the surrounding community of that, and then also let them know that if there are any complaints, they can always dial 510-293-7000. But what is the management? What does management look like for safe parking sites? I know that some of the council members touched on it a little bit, but what if we have severe issues? What does that look like?
Yeah, so they'll have strict management plans that will be reviewed by staff in partnership with community services, police, fire, all of the agencies, and we will have strict conditions of approval. Likely we'll have pretty strong rules based on like the Union City and the Fremont programs about people who are problems are not invited back to the facilities and things like that. If nuisances do arise and they are not following conditions of approval, we will revoke a use permit.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I would say is that I would prefer to see some comments about mixed use, if that's possible. If we are allowing zoning to change, I want to see if we can add some point system in terms of adding amenities that residents who already live in the area can enjoy, such as what we're doing with mixed market rate, low income, median income, mixed use buildings we're seeing on Mission and the more high traffic, high density areas. Is it possible to have that with SROs and with some of the shelters, just so it can also reduce traffic, because we are building a lot on Mission and we are making adjustments to what we're building on Mission. But if we're continuing to intensify the use of Mission, we need to think about amenities so folks don't have to travel as much for those uses.
The current regulations would allow like mixed use scenarios. We could explore it for SROs. When we have those requirements, they are big financial constraints and they will mean that these will not get constructed if we add too many requirements to it. As for shelters, we are under state law. We have like 6 things that we can regulate, and we are regulating all 6 of them. So we don't have flexibility to add additional stuff for shelter uses.
Okay, and when I say amenities, it doesn't have to be a, expensive coffee shop. It can just be something that could be of use for the residents at the SRO as well as the community. So whatever that looks like, I think it would be helpful to know what is allowed.
Yeah, we are requiring open space, and we have like programmed open space requirements, so that will be part of the SROs, similar to how we like require it for apartment buildings. It won't be public infrastructure; it would be for the residents.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Excellent questions. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff. Good work. I know you have been working on this for a very long time, so I like where it's at right now. I just have a few questions. I noticed that we talked about for the RVs not having any hookups, but I'm wondering if you were aware of something called the pump out service for RVs. There's companies out there. If I mention the brand name, and I'm not going to, you would probably instantly recognize them. But one of the services that they do is they will come and hook up to an RV and pump it out. And so there's no hookups that are required. But I think from a safety and sanitation perspective, I think it ought to be something that we should be discussing with our community partners. Because otherwise I see a potential here where they may not want to take RVs, and we need to find a space for some of these RVs. So pump out services, I think the generic term that they call it. And I'm wondering, we in the staff report it says that it has to be paved and striped parking. I'm just wondering why, and why not dirt?
So we have our water pollution source control division who regulates our water that flows into our sewer drains, wanted that requirement because when things are on dirt, they can percolate into groundwater and cause issues, and then they can cause us to be fined by not meeting the requirements of our permit. This is not, it's required of all parking lots, it's required of all industrial lots, that things are parked on paved surfaces, so it's not a requirement. We are just requiring of safe parking.
So my concern here is the cost of paving. So if somebody wanted to provide this and they didn't have paving, they're probably going to spend, I don't know if I have the figures right, but I think it's close to $100,000 per parking space. That's pretty expensive. I don't know, does that fit with what your understanding is?
So the reason we crafted the regulations we did is to avoid like that situation. The regulations require there to be like a developed site. So really our envision is that these will be on churches or nonprofits or other organizations that have very large paved parking lots that are underutilized currently and not used during the evening. So that's the reason we crafted the regulations that way. We don't want to add additional costs, but we need to make sure we're in line with our permits.
So I'm just wondering if there isn't some less expensive alternative like bioswales or some other method of grading and allowing drainage and still capturing that would satisfy the pollution control district.
No, the paving requirements are like a standard detail in our engineering requirements. And they have to use like a certain concrete makeup. You can have some like permeable pavement, but typically that's more expensive. So really this is a universal requirement of parking lots everywhere.
Okay, all right, thank you for explaining all of that. And then, let's see, I think my colleagues have already talked about the other components to this. I would definitely want to see bike parking to be something that's promoted. And the 5 p.m. to 10 a.m., did I write? I think I copied this down right. 5 p.m. to 10 a.m., right? And I think that fits with what our community service providers are saying, a broader open window for people to, come, take rest, linger a while, and not feel like they're being rushed in and rushed out. So I do like that. And again, I like the hard work that clearly you and your colleagues have put into this. And I think it says a lot about the heart that this community has for everybody in our city. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief with my comments this evening, but I do appreciate these zoning changes because when you think about how we deal with and tackle housing and homelessness in our community, we need to make sure that we have every tool available at our disposal. And this definitely enhances the toolbox, our tools within our toolbox of different things that we can leverage to help solve this crisis in a very intentional way. I think about people entering an unhoused situation at all kinds of different ages and for all kinds of different reasons. So it's important as a community, but more importantly as a region, that we have the right services to meet the right needs at the right time for people in our community. We also know that housing and homelessness isn't just an issue that's isolated to Hayward. It's a regional issue, which is why I also appreciate, in a lot of your comments, Taylor, you referenced what other cities around us were doing, because what's proposed here is what's needed to make sure that as a region, we have a coordinated system to be able to address these issues. And also to make sure no one single community is overburdened by taking on issues that are rampant across our county. So I do appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into these recommendations. As it relates to the SROs, these have been proven models, to get people rapidly rehoused. We know that people don't like, as you had mentioned, being in congregate settings. So having this as a tool in our toolbox that isn't going to necessarily compete with our current, hoteliers. It's going to supplement hotels or motels that are currently in distress that are perfect for this type of use. So I do appreciate, our thoughtfulness in SROs. I do want to see SROs in high density areas for the reasons that you talked about, access to transportation, access to services, and things like that. As it relates to safe parking, I have a whole list of sites that I think would be great for that would meet these requirements. But the thing that I want us to maybe think through is, do the restrooms have to be permanent? I think that might be a barrier that may not be necessary. I think we need to have restrooms, but do they need to be permanent? I don't know. And I've seen safe parking sites that were well ran that didn't have permanent restrooms, and people still had the hygiene and the sanitation that was needed to, use those facilities. What do you think about adding something around, requiring security or some sort of security type, capability at these safe parking sites?
Yeah, so we will require a management plan, which will have to spell out their security plan, and obviously the staff would only support it if we believe that there is adequate security. So we didn't want to dictate specific security measures. We really wanted to, on a case-by-case basis, partner with our police and fire department and look at what security measures are appropriate for that site. But that could be a 24-hour security guard, it could be cameras, it could be fencing, it could be lighting, and other things. It will just kind of depend on what the site and what the site already has.
Got it. That makes sense. Just wanted to, to think through how we make sure that these sites are secure without inadvertently putting up barriers that would disincentivize people from wanting to activate their parking lot for this, very honorable service. As I think about, barriers and any of this and all of this, because, as I think about, the more regulations we put on, I feel like the more it's going to disincentivize the activation of what we're trying to do with these zoning changes. So I do, I do support having these, these changes being approved through administrative uses, or when applications come forward for these type of uses, that happening through administrative use permits. I think that's the fastest and lowest barrier to make sure that we're activating what's in this plan. And then lastly, under the sort of state of emergency that we're currently under, now that we have, or that, let's say in a couple of weeks, once the zoning changes, we get some feedback and we finalize them, I guess, I know we're here talking about zoning, but I kind of want to know the nexus, what's going to come next here. So, are we going to do like a full court press, and like, do we have people who we want to kind of target, for all of these services, because it seems like this zoning is sort of something we need to do to then go out and contact these service providers and then to go out and contact these nonprofits to really see this materialize. So I guess that being a next step, are we kind of mobilized and ready to go with that?
Yeah, so I've already been thinking about that. In our outreach, we heard from lots of service providers that they don't understand the development process. They don't even know where to begin. So I think we're looking at hosting some like educational things where we invite maybe developers. I've partnered with we just went to the California APA conference and met a bunch of cool people who are great partners who are willing to kind of show up and teach our service providers how development works so that they have the knowledge to get through some of these requirements and understand what they're looking at in order to work on these. So yeah, it is part of our process.
Good. And then lastly, as we think about who those partners will be to sort of activate this vision of this plan, to Councilmember Andrews' point, thinking about how we make sure that we're holding folks accountable. I know that everyone is well-intentioned, but we just have so many priorities and everyone is stretched so thin. You can start to see service segregation, security, or other type of issues, come up at some of these locations. So just making sure that we have a tight and coordinated plan for how we jointly, drive accountability in this space. Also recognizing that none of this is going to be done without partnership. So we need to be able to come to the table as well as a city in a way that, partners and incentivizes and continues to create opportunities that are non-punitive, right? So as we think about opportunities and ways of driving shared accountability in this space, that would be something I'd be interested in too, as we look at activating these sites. But very thoughtful. I think it's, hitting on everything from, how we deal with rapid rehousing to how we deal with, mentally and chronically ill members of our community that could be facing unhousing. So, or can be in a situation of being unhoused. So just thanks for the thoughtfulness that went into this. And I do support these zoning amendments with the comments that I just made. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So just a few things. First I wanted to acknowledge Councilmember Goldstein and Councilmember Syrup and I. We sit on the Housing Committee, and I wanted to thank them for their questions. I also, as I was listening to everybody talk, I couldn't help but to just highlight a couple of big themes. One, we are focusing on zoning, right? And this is sort of the law side of the business, and we're trying to create as many tools as we can, as many different kinds of strategies and approaches to respond to housing, but particularly housing for our lowest income neighbors. And so that's what we're doing tonight, right? We're focusing on zoning. And I think just by the fact that we have brought this, that it's here today, clearly demonstrates the city's compassion for some of our most, not only lowest income neighbors, but some of our most vulnerable, marginalized individuals in our city. We have not stopped with our work trying to not only provide supportive housing, but if you look at the strategies that we're doing, we also include, and this is what I wanted to emphasize, that we've also include in all of our strategies support services. And so I know, we're just not putting this thing together just, sort of willy-nilly. We're talking both about zoning, building, and then supportive services. And so I think there's this element of compassion that I think needs to be, said over and over and over so that people understand that and people see the work that we're doing. Conversely, the second theme that I think is important is accountability. And I think I think you're hearing that all up here. Councilmember Andrews, I think, articulated it quite beautifully. While we continue to provide, or while we continue to zone and provide the policy tools to create many different housing scenarios and opportunities, we want to make sure we have standards, high standards. And, I do want to make sure parking lots are paved. I do want to make sure there's dumping, for waste, both human waste and other trash. And I think, as we go down this process, I want to make sure that our standards are high. I have seen some horrendous motels, right? I mean, I think we've all seen them. And I don't want to, as we move down this process, I want to make sure that we don't lower our standards, that we continue to have high standards. And then another theme is coordinated systems. I'm on the, I participate in the league or in the Alameda County Mayor's Conference. I am part of the Housing Task Force where all the mayors in Alameda County are working on a coordinated plan. Dr. Amy Cole-Bloom has presented to us. She has worked on the plan that we have put together. It's now currently being vetted by the county, and the county is providing their feedback. So this is coordinated. There isn't a mayor or city manager in Alameda County that isn't working on this and responding to this. But even at that level, we are talking about, compassion, we're talking about accountability, but we're also talking about standards and making sure that we have high standards. With that said, I just wanted to, I had some other questions here, but I'm gonna just cut it short here, and I'll just end on this. And in fact, I don't know if this is a question or more of a comment, but it's this. I heard you say, if standards, if conditions aren't followed, we can revoke, permits and stuff, and which is great. And I know that we monitor that, and this isn't the only space that we do that in. We revoke permits on a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. But I'm also, I just want us to caution, and I want to sort of raise a flag that I really want to make sure that if we do administratively approve these, and if we sort of go in that direction, that we have checks in there that we prevent, that we can assure high levels of standards, right? Whether it's, I mean, this may be more work, and I get it, and I don't know how we do that, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. But it's monitoring this frequently, because my concern is if we do administratively permit this, it's going to be very difficult to revoke a permit and shut something down when you have people living there. And so we need to build these standards, build these accountability measures so that people have a very clear understanding. I mean, so they know no dirt, right? No, where it's, asphalt or, concrete or whatever. And so I just want to urge that, it's not necessarily a question more than it is a urging. Because nobody wants to go and and remove people because of an organization or an agency or somebody not doing what they were supposed to do at the first place. And I think we've seen some cases like that. So, anyways, that would be the one thing that I really want us to think about. I agree with all my colleagues. I'm generally in agreement to everything that you guys want to do, and the revisions and the enhancements. So I appreciate it. Do you have what you need from us?
Yes, I have what I need. We will be back in early next year with final regulations for adoption.
Great. And I just wanted to just let you know that I've been up here a long time. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say we were at a conference and we met a lot of cool people that talked about this. So Associate Planner Richard, thank you very much for your work. Director Bowser, thank you for all your work on this. And of course, Dr. Amy Cole-Bloom, I'm sure you're still there. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you. Okay, our next item, I'm going to move on to, it is a public hearing, and this is on critical municipal facilities. Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a power purchase agreement with Ava Community Energy to install solar and battery storage for 4 city facilities. And our presenter on this, I see Eric Pearson pop up. I know on the sheet here it says Director Alex Zamiri, but I don't know who will kick this off. I think either Alex Zamiri or Eric.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Environmental Services Manager Eric Peterson will kick this off.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
Thank you, Director Marion. Good evening, Mayor and Council and community members. I just want to, first off, I want to say joining me for this presentation today, we have Andy McElroy from Ava Community Energy, and he's here to help answer any questions when we get to that point. So this program was originally presented to Council in 2021, and at that time, Council supported the concept of the program. And so now we're back with some details. So the proposal is to partner with Ava Community Energy to install solar and batteries on 4 city facilities. Since 2021, we've done a lot of work on developing the scope of work for each site, as well as developing contracts. We started off with Hayward being one of 4 cities in the program, and now there are 7. So in addition to Hayward, we have the cities of Berkeley, Fremont, Livermore, Oakland, Pleasanton, and San Leandro all participating. And so by bundling 60 projects from these 7 cities, Ava Community Energy is reducing the amount of work that cities would have to do to evaluate projects and handle these contracts separately. Ava is also helping us to achieve economies of scale. So these projects would help provide resiliency backup power for critical loads in the event of grid outages, reduce reliance on our existing diesel generators. However, we will keep those generators, we will maintain them for more significant grid outages. We will also reduce the city's energy bills by altering the times of day that electricity is taken from the grid and strategically discharging batteries during peak energy or peak price periods. And also, these projects will have no upfront costs to the city and will save the city money over the life of the project.
You like when you say that.
So I'm going to quickly show the four preliminary site plans. The first one here is Fire Station 1. It shows a solar carport along the rear property line. And then the battery is shown in a small green rectangle. The project would also include some electrical upgrades at this site. And we have Fire Station 7. It would include a solar carport at the front of the property, as well as solar on the roof of the building. And then the battery shown in green would be along the rear property line. Then we have at the courtyard, a solar carport at the center of the property. This would be benefiting the fleet maintenance building. And the battery would be located just outside the fenced area in a parking space near Soto Road, kind of at the top of the image. And then finally, we have the solar carport on the top level of the Cinema Place parking garage. No battery would be included at this location due to the reduced electrical load. It's not deemed feasible in this situation. So some key terms of the power purchase agreement. As I mentioned, there's no upfront costs to the city. The city would make monthly payments to Ava Community Energy for the kilowatt hours received. The city's total payments over the 25-year contract will be less than we would pay for electricity without the project. And the power purchase agreement would require contractors to pay prevailing wages. And the developer for the four projects would be Gridscape, which is based in Fremont. So our plan is to execute the power purchase agreement in December this year, begin construction in the spring of 2025. And this would allow us to stay on track and have the projects completed by April of 2026. April of 2026 is our deadline to stay on the NEM 2.0 or the net energy metering rules that are the more financially favorable rules compared to the newer net metering rules. So with that, we're recommending the council open the hearing, accept public comments, review and comment on the report, and then adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the power purchase agreement. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Can you bring back that slide with the, before I open up for questions, I just wanted to bring back the PPA agreement.
Yes.
Perfect, right there. Yeah, I just wanted to, I just want folks, not only in the community, but folks here in the chamber to look at the, these are the key terms of the agreement, but, these are pretty good. And I think the things that, no upfront costs to the city, that's great. And then the last bullet, contractors, subcontractors, employees hired by developer will be paid prevailing wages. And this is something that this whole council has been committed to on as many projects as we can, and I'm glad that this particular project will be doing that. So outstanding work. Thank you very much, Mr. Pearson and Mr. Ameri for doing this. When I was reading the staff report on this, I could not have been happier. So with that said, I wanted to call first for questions our AVA representative, our liaison to AVA, Councilmember Roach, who, just by looking at that agreement and looking at the work that she's been doing on there, has been doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish I could take some credit, but I really want to give big credit to the AVA staff and the work that they've done with our city, with Alex Murray and Eric Pearson, because they've really been the ones that have brought this forward, and I was there to support it for sure, including the Council Sustainability Committee. We passed it unanimously, and unfortunately, I wasn't there. We had another meeting, so our other two members passed this, passed this to get us to this point as well. So we're just on questions, so maybe I'll save that. The one question I had was, one of the great things about this is just the sort of like joint effort. So we get to take advantage of the purchasing power, the purchase agreement. So I wanted to ask Andy or Eric, what other, because I think we're in this phase 1 of this project, what other cities have gotten this far as we are now to sort of get, I don't know, to permit applications? What other cities are at the same step now?
I'm happy to answer that, and just want to say hello and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and be presenting with Eric. So thanks, Eric, also for all the work that you've done here. So along with Hayward, it is Berkeley, Fremont, San Leandro, Oakland, Livermore, and Pleasanton.
Okay, great, and that's in the phase 1. And then the other thing, can you just sort of give a really brief synopsis of why these resiliency hubs are important for cities to undertake, to bring into their cities?
Sure. So a number of reasons, and this is a project that I stepped into a year ago when I started at AVA. Even though, as Eric said, this has been cooking for years, and it came up for a few reasons. The desire to move away from dirty diesel generators, especially a lot of these municipal facilities are in neighborhoods that, well, not that any neighborhood needs any additional carbon emissions in its backyard, but a lot of these are like corp yards or equipment yards or fire stations or police stations, and already in very urban environments that, like I said, don't need any more emissions. And so part of it is cutting down on that and adding battery resilience just for the purpose of cleaner backup. And then on top of that, adding resilience, we just got a heads up that there's going to be a public safety power shutdown somewhere in our service territory over the next few weeks. And the more that there is resilience that is battery based, that basically takes the load off of the grid, the fewer of these PSPS events will happen, which is just good for everyone. And then finally, this is a bit of a bridge program as we move into working with our city partners to develop more resilience hubs, which are, the idea is to provide safe spaces for community members to come during a heat wave or during a power outage where they can come and cool off or charge their phone or just be safe. And a lot of these that we're putting in other cities are not only fire stations, police stations, courtyards like Eric talked about, but also like libraries and community centers. So there hopefully will be more phases as we prove concept here, and certainly we can revisit places in Hayward as well.
Thank you. Okay, great. Those are all my questions, and I will wait to make my comments after.
Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank my colleagues on the Council Sustainability Committee for bringing this forward. I just kind of want, my questions are more to help me clarify what this is about. So I get that there's no upfront cost to get this installed. So the cost is going to come from us paying for the electricity, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And then we're saying that the city is going to save over this 25-year life of this PPA about $500,000 to $800,000. Is that about right?
Yes, and that is based on figures that I provided about a month ago. We are currently doing a repricing exercise based on some changes from some sites moving from roof to carport, and then a few sites dropped out because cities said that they were going to tear some sites down. So we are going to do a repricing. So there will be savings. You can only move forward with this if it is at least cost neutral or there are savings. Able will ensure that, but I just have to make that caveat for that projection.
That makes sense. And I also appreciate kind of the added benefit of how this would double back as a resiliency hub for our community as well, especially in kind of some of the situations that you were just had explained. So this is for 4 sites over 25 years. I guess, is there any plans in place to look at how we expand, to more than 4 sites in our city, since this seems to have so many benefits?
So I can jump in here. One of the things that limits us is the fantastic job that we've already done in a lot of locations and put solar pretty much anywhere that we could. And so we are limited in where we can expand. We will obviously continue to try to find opportunities, but the opportunities don't avail themselves as simply as they may in another community that has not been as committed to moving to solar as much as possible, that would allow for the expansion. Obviously, we'll continue to work, but that was, one of the comments that we received from AVA was when they, initially did their assessment and put up a drone to kind of look, the opportunities didn't exist as much because there was already solar in so many locations.
Makes sense. That could probably be applied to my next question, but I'll just ask it anyway. So I know that this is really focused on the city, but the city government of Hayward, but thinking about kind of the city more generally and some of our other partners in the city, has there been any kind of talks with Cal State or Chabot about potentially something similar in their locations?
I will defer to to Andy from AVA.
So that's a great question, and it's something we're very interested in as well. I think if you go to any of our board meetings or any other city council meetings in AVA's territory, you'll find that the term resilience hub is a very hot one right now, really nationwide. And so this was particularly convenient because working with municipalities and municipally owned buildings go hand in hand. But we are very interested in expanding to other kinds of buildings and properties that can still be considered resilience hubs, in no small part because next spring AVA is launching a battery incentive program for people to help offset the cost of installing a battery, whether it's in a residence or there's a particularly large incentive for resilience hubs. And so the first thing that as soon as we got really excited about that, we realized first thing we needed to do was define what could be included in a resilience hub. And it's not an effort to be pedantic or too philosophical about it, but really if we're going to be re-injecting ratepayer dollars back into communities, we have to have a certain consistency and rubric for deciding what those buildings can be. That's a long way of saying, yes, we're very interested in that, and we are working with a number of developers and consultants right now to help get those next steps and figure out what new efforts we can put forth to build more resiliency hubs.
Thank you. And then I guess this is more of a comment, which is I'm interested to see kind of the nexus between these resiliency hubs and our city's disaster plan, because when I think about resilience, it could be applied to many type of situations, but if we're going to use these as sites where communities kind of come together, is there a way of looking at how that's more integrated into our disaster and emergency response plan, since this is something that seems to increase and strengthen our resiliency as a city as well? Those are my only questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just have one question. This is for AVA. When are we taking the next AVA Hayward Green Step? Kind of related to colleague Bonilla's question.
I apologize. I'm not familiar with that. The next Green Step?
This is a good first step.
What
we're doing today is good. It's excellent. I was very happy to say that we all on the Sustainability Committee supported this and passed it on. It's a good green step. It's excellent. So I'm curious about the next one. As we heard from our city manager, it's kind of difficult because we have done quite a bit. Chabot and Cal State would be excellent partners, along with Southland possibly. So I'm hoping for the next step. So thanks.
Got it. Thank you very much. And that may have been rhetorical, but I will say that if we can land this plane like we're almost there, getting this thing off the ground with contracts and get these things energized by April 2026, as long as we know that we are on track for that. I imagine sometime next year we could launch additional phases. I mean, we have other partner cities. Albany is one, and I know Piedmont has been interested. There are other cities who are very interested in participating in this, and so we'd be happy to revisit. I also just want to thank Hayward for being so on the ball with reaching all the deadlines that we asked for and collaborating so much. And you guys are the first ones to actually have this in front of your city council. And we just so appreciate it because it helps us, again, prove the concept that it's all possible.
All right. So you have my support and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do that, meet deadlines. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff. Yeah, this is a very interesting project, and of course I'm for it. But I do have a couple of questions, and it, kind of comes from my background building, managing data centers. Who is responsible for equipment failures or degraded equipment, or sometimes solar panels or the connectors produce radio frequency interference that has to be solved by replacing equipment? Who's on the hook for that? If this is three parties, it's the city of Hayward, it's Ava Energy, and a commercial provider. Who's actually on the hook financially for fixing those issues?
Yes, thank you for that question. So I did want to add a little bit of detail to what Eric presented. Our actual counterparty, which is the financing company that we will have a contract with, Ava will have a contract with, is a company called Greenbridge Energy. And so their whole business is financing big projects like this. One of the reasons that we built the portfolio, did the portfolio approach with multiple cities and around 60 sites, is so that we could attract large engineering finance companies, green energy finance companies like Greenbridge. And so they have chosen Gridscape out of Fremont as their engineering, procurement, and construction company, or EPC. All of that is to say, since our contract is with Greenbridge, Greenbridge will be responsible for all O&M, operation and maintenance, over the 25 years of the contract.
Okay, great.
And so whether that's executed through Gridscape or through other, it's a durable agreement that way, so it can go through the provider of their choosing.
Okay, very good. And I think you probably already anticipated my next line of questions here, and that's, in the event that our partner and supplier becomes illiquid, how can we easily find replacement parts and service? Basically what I'm asking is, are the parts and components commercial off the shelf, or are they proprietary? And do we have the resources and backup resources in the event of the failure of that business to be able to continue to operate at a financially viable way?
Well, here's the beauty of Hayward's contract being with Ava. As far as Hayward is concerned, it's Ava's responsibility to fulfill the terms of your contract. And so as long as Greenbridge is around, then we will call them when you call us, and it will be up to them to solve things. If Greenbridge ceases to exist, but fingers crossed, Ava is still around as long as our partner cities are, then it is our job to fulfill the terms of the contract that we have with you. Okay. So, and I just want to clarify that one of the concerns that we got from other cities who have entered into PPAs on their own without this, what's called a sleeve PPA arrangement, which goes through an intermediary like Ava. The concern was their PPA ended up being bundled and sold off like a commodity. And so then they ended up tracking down phone numbers for companies that weren't solar companies, but they were basically investment firms. And of course, they were not super available for helping with solar questions. And so as long as Ava is around and kicking, Eric or whoever else can call us and say, hey, we may be having a problem with this system over here. And then we're the ones responsible on the hook because your contract's with us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. I have no other questions, and so I'd like to close questions and open up for public comment. I don't see any public comment, nor do I have any cards, so I'd like to close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion. And our AVA liaison, Councilmember Roach.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to move the item. I'm really
Second.
pleased to do so. Thank you.
Moved by Councilmember Roach, seconded by Councilmember Andrews. Are there any questions? Seeing none, Councilmember Bonilla has a very, very short and comment and brief. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to thank again the Council Sustainability Committee and Councilmember Roche and whoever else was involved in this, PPA coming forward, or these terms coming forward tonight. I think it was very thoughtful and good work. I also appreciate the multiple benefits that's coming from this, sustainability, resilience, cost effectiveness. I think this is a win-win the whole way around. So I'm happy to support this item and just thank my colleagues for their hard work on it.
Thank you. Councilmember Zermania.
My apologies, I forgot to thank Eric Pearson for the good job that he did on this. Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for all of your work. Moved by Councilmember Roach, seconded by Councilmember Andrews. No other questions. Madam City Clerk, we can vote.
Councilmember Cermeño? Yes? Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
And it unanimously passes. Thank you very much. Our next item is item number 19. And what I'm going to do with this item, 19 is cities procurement policies, adopt a resolution approving updates to the City of Hayward's procurement policy. And this is going to come to us by way of the Finance Director, Nicole Gonzalez. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to forego staff report and come straight to questions and see if council has any questions for our Director of Finance, Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I was looking at the $2,500 limit. Does that seem pretty low for? I think it's $2,500 up to $15,000, but just wanted to make sure that wasn't too low for you all for expenditures.
Were you referring to the thresholds for services?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, for example, for supplies and services, it is $7,500. Before we need to receive quotes, we are looking to increase that. That's an administrative threshold that we're looking to increase to $25,000.
Okay.
And that is more in line with what we're seeing in neighboring jurisdictions.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, because I saw one chart that said 25, and I was like, that seems low. So it's going up to?
It is going up.
Okay. And then I wanted to know for construction projects, is there a charter that changes the thresholds for project managers who are seeking higher dollar amounts? So if you have this $200-something million project, I'm pretty sure those expenditures seem pretty low.
So we follow the public contractor code, and so those thresholds are set by that particular governing body, and so we are not proposing any changes to that. Those changes are dictated by the public construction code.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'd like to close questions, open it for public comment. I don't see any cards, nor do I see any hands online. I'd like to close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the item, and I just want to make a quick comment.
Sure. Moved by Councilmember Syrup.
I'll second the item.
Seconded by Councilmember Bonilla, in a comment by the motioner.
Great, thank you. Just want to thank Mayor Salinas and Councilmember Bonilla, who serve on the Budget and Finance Committee with me. One of the larger changes here is updating the threshold that requires council review and approval for both the city manager's office and the city attorney's office up to $100,000. There's a useful pie chart in the staff report, and I just want the public to understand that we're talking about the top 3% of purchase order requests that would receive council review. A lot of this is being done to streamline staff action, so not every single item needs to come before the council, except for the big ticket ones that require a bit more scrutiny and a little bit more, I would say, fiduciary oversight on how we're spending our budget. So just want to appreciate my colleagues on the Budget and Finance Committee for moving this forward, for updating this policy, because things have gotten more expensive, as many of us have noticed, and I think it's important for us as a city to adjust this policy to move quickly. And so that's why I'm happy to move the item, and thank you for seconding it, Councilmember Bonilla.
Great, thank you. Good point. Councilmember Bonilla, nothing?
My only comment was going to be very similar to what Councilmember Syrup said, which is, a lot of these changes are very consistent with surrounding jurisdictions, and that's something we brought up at the Finance and Budget Committee meeting. When you look at these thresholds, it's very much in alignment with San Mateo, Fremont, and San Leandro, so none of this is, out of line. I feel very comfortable supporting it. And, just so the public knows, and it's in the report, this has also been vetted through the Council Finance and Budget Committee as well. So happy to second the item tonight.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, moved by Council, Mr. City Attorney Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the confidence that this expresses in staff.
Thank you. Moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Bonilla. Madam City Clerk, we can vote now. The item unanimously passes. Thank you. Next is council reports and announcements. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you. I wanted to announce that Keep Hayward Clean and Green will have a cleanup on October 19th, 8 to 12 at Palmacia Park. So please get your gloves ready, bring your grabbers. If you don't have them, they have them there already. The other item I wanted to mention was ZombieCon. If you want to dress up like a zombie, you can have your opportunity to do that. Downtown Hayward, October 26th, starting at 7 p.m. Proceeds will go to the Hayward Animal Shelter to support our cats, dogs, rabbits, and any other animals that we have there. So look forward to seeing you all.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Also I was asked by the library director to pass on also on October 26th from 11 to 3 p.m. Hayward Public Library and the Hayward Promise Neighborhoods will be holding the annual Trunk or Treat and Promise Fest at the same time. So it should be really exciting. There's going to be over 60 organizations this year providing a ton of exciting activities for kids. There's going to be lots of free candy. There'll be music and dance and performances, face painting. It should be a really good time. So it's Saturday, October 26th from 11 to 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that is always a big event. Last year, I think they had the record turnout. They had, officially they counted 10,000 ghosts and goblins and witches and you, of course, you can dress up. And I even saw a couple of council members dressed up. And it was a great event. So good reminder. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that October 27th, the last Sunday of the month, will be the final South Hayward Market for the year. And if you're interested in trying out the new bike lanes on West Tennyson, there will be a bike ride that is launching from the South Hayward Market. Folks are encouraged to arrive at 12 for the market, and then the ride will begin at 1 p.m. So come get some free produce. We gave away about $1,000 worth of free produce at the last one. We're hoping to do the same again this time. And join folks for a bike ride and check out some of our new city infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to announce that tomorrow morning, many of us up here will be leaving to Long Beach, California, to the annual League of California conference. This is the annual conference where all the mayors and council members throughout the state of California meet and conference, and we talk about all of the great work that we are all doing. And it's also just a wonderful opportunity to share with, we share what we're doing and we share all the work that we're doing, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to see what other cities are doing. And I'll just give you one little nugget that, tonight we talked about, the housing element and expanding some of the zoning. Well, there is a model. One of the cities down in the Los Angeles area, it was a small city, a very small city, where they had 3 chronically vacant motels, and they converted the motels into supportive housing for homeless, and it completely revitalized those motels and the neighborhood that those motels were in. It enhanced the desirability of those neighborhoods and so forth. So the fact that we did what we're doing tonight shows that the work that we're doing, we're not alone, and it happens throughout the state of California. So tomorrow will be. I think it's one of the largest conferences I go to. There's hundreds of people that go there, and so we'll be there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Also, wanted to, I know the president of the Hayward Chamber of Commerce is still in the room. Wanted to acknowledge the great work you and your team did on the Mariachi Festival on Friday. We talk about leveling up. We leveled up. And I think you could not have missed the letters that spelled out Hayward in front of the stage that evening and throughout the entire weekend, all on my social media reel. All I saw was, pictures of the stage with Hayward right across. And so I know Councilmember Andrews up here is always talking about Instagrammable moments and creating those opportunities. And I think the chamber had struck a great balance with that, and just a great tone and tenor for Saturday. So I wanted to thank you and your team for all of the great work that you did. And I don't know how many people were there, but it was, I think, the weather was great, but I think it was one of the larger events that I've seen over the years. So thank you very much. Lastly, I wanted to say this week, ballots were mailed. And so I want to encourage everyone to, bless you, fill out your ballots and send them in, and do your research and make sure you know who you're voting for, what you're voting for, and please, I urge everyone to make good, informed decisions while you're out there voting. And you have until November 5th to turn in your ballot. And I want to also re-emphasize, for more information regarding voting and the election, you can always call the city clerk's office here in Hayward, or you can go online and visit the wonderful 4-minute video of the rendition of Whitney Houston, I Want to Vote with Somebody. I think that's what it was. I want to vote for somebody. See, I can't unhear that, so I'm going to be hearing that for a long time. So thank you very much for that. So that concludes my remarks. There are no council referrals. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting is October 21st, 2024. Meeting adjourned.